Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this new video. It is now 2025. That also means it is time to now look back at 2024 reading wise. So today I'm going to tier rank all the books that I read last year. So I did do a reading wrap up a few times last year, but I even think there were a few months where I didn't even read a single book. Last year was interesting, let's put it like that. For the special occasion I brought an iced chai with me. This is the chocolate and orange flavor, which I've never had as an iced chai before, but it's my favorite when it's hot. First, I think we should look a bit about my statistics from last year, or my 2024 in reading. So in 2024, I read 34 books, which for me was 12,582 pages. Now my goal for 2024 was actually 50 books, but I ended up lowering it to 35, and I couldn't even keep up with that. So I have nothing to say for myself, really. So my shortest book was A Demon in the Wood by Lee Bardugo, which is a little novella to the Shadow and Bone trilogy, which I really like, but we'll get into that. And my longest book was A Court of Wings and Ruin, which was 720 pages by Sarah J. Maas, the third book in the ACOTAR series, which averages out to 370 pages for every book that I've read in 2024, which I think is like pretty fair. I do read a lot of fantasy, and if I don't read fantasy, I often read romance, and I feel like good romance is like 300, 350, and fantasy is often 400, 500 pages, so I feel like that sounds pretty reasonable. I've also read a few novellas, I'm pretty sure. My most shelved book this year was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I don't know how to pronounce his name, where 4.8 million people shelved this book. And my least shelved book was Court of Shadows by C.N. Crawford, which only 75,000 people shelved. And that is the first book in the Shadow Fae series. I don't know. I never continued that series. And my average rating for this year was a 3.7, which I feel like is pretty average, pretty good, solid. I feel like I had a lot of 4-star books this year. Even though I think I actually rated a lot of books 5 stars. Even though I don't think that they're I don't feel like I had that good books this year, but I mean, I don't know. I think I need to debrief a little bit. That's why we're doing this video, y'all. And my highest rated book on Goodreads is Fourth Wing with a 4.56 average. Is that a shock to anyone? I don't think so. But I think we've been talking enough, so grab a drink and let's get started with the video. Also guys, can we take a moment to look at my background? Do y'all get the references? These are my 2 favorite books of all time. If you know these books, you're a real one. But let's get into the tier ranking. So I made my own with 6 different tiers. So the top one is life-changing. Books that literally altered my brain chemistry and are some of my top books of all time. Next we have amazing but missing the last sparkle. Books I really enjoyed, but they were just missing something to make them really stand out and to be one of the best books I've read ever. Then would recommend nothing special, because a lot of the books I read are good, but I don't really think about them again, or they just don't really stand out from other books, but they were still a good time. We Were Rooting for You. I have a few books for this category. I really when I really thought maybe a book would be great or something, and it just wasn't. Should have DNF'd. I don't know if I actually have any books for this category. I know there are some for the last category which are DNFs, books I just could simply not get through. Personally for me, I do put DNFs books in my Goodreads if I read a lot of it. I do have a lot of DNF books where I'm at where I've only read 100 pages. Then I don't really put in my Goodreads, but for example, I have one book in here, at least I know, that where I've read 2/3 of it and just couldn't finish it. And I feel like it's a waste of time, and I don't even get to put it in my Goodreads because I know that I didn't like the book. That's kind of how I manage my DNFs, if that makes sense. But I think we've been talking quite a bit now, so let's get into the tier ranking. So the first book is The Court of Shadows by C.N. Crawford, and it's been a while since I've read this. By the way, I tried to put them in chronological order, but when I put them in the website, they just completely went out of order. So yeah, these aren't in any particular order, they're just random. But Court of Shadows, I've read this a long time ago. I got it at a Stuff Your Kindle days, I think they were called. I will say, I was in a huge reading slump when I started this, and I think I read quite a lot of it in one sitting actually. I think I would say would recommend nothing special just because I don't remember much from it. It was a very interesting original plot. I don't remember much of it, honestly. So I don't even think I could give you a fair explanation of the book. But it's not it wasn't good, because I enjoyed reading it and I thought I would actually continue the series. I think it fits pretty well in that category. Next up we have Scarred by Emily McIntyre, the second book in the Never After series. Now, I actually remember really liking this book, and I think I rated it a 4-star or something. I should probably open my Goodreads so I can tell you guys what I rated the books, because I do not remember. Okay. I gave it a 3-star. Now, I think I will say would recommend nothing special again, but I remember really liking the book. But honestly, I don't remember the plot. I don't remember what happened. I don't remember much. I like that it wasn't just insta-lust and that it wasn't too heavy on the spies from like page 10. It wasn't, I don't know, it was just, I feel like the plot flowed better in this one than, for example, the first one. So I actually kind of enjoyed it. Don't remember much, so I don't really feel like I could put it in a higher tier. Next up we have Reckless by Lauren Roberts, the second book in the Powerless trilogy. I thought I gave it a 4, but I actually gave it a 3, which I also feel like is pretty fitting for this book. It was a lot of cat and mouse in this, and I also do think I was having a pretty good time while reading the first half. The second half was a little slower, a little harder to get through. I also don't see why people love the tension and the banter in this one, and the series in general. But I did really like the ending, even though I think it sets up for the third book so well. I think the third book actually has a really good chance of being the best book in the series. But I think for Reckless, I'm gonna put in We Were Rooting For You, just because it was a little bit boring, especially in the long run. Next up we have The Prisoner's Throne by Holly Black, my girl. Oh my god. Obviously the original Folk of the Air trilogy is my favorite books of all time, so I was so excited when I heard that she was writing this duology about Oak and this girl Ren, and The Stolen Heir was a bit of a miss for me. I wasn't the biggest fan. I think I rated it a 3. It took me so long to get through it. I don't know, but overall, like, I still liked it, but just it wasn't the same. But I feel like The Prisoner's Throne had more of what Folk of the Air trilogy had. I don't know, and I know it's not like, I know they're not supposed to be like a copy of each other or anything, but it just had so much of what I had been missing from Folk of the Air. Like, it's been such a long time since I've read those books for the first time, and yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it was very elf hymn-ish, this book. I don't know what to say. I also really loved Oak as a narrator. The only thing I was a little sad about is that we didn't get to see as much of Ren, and when we saw her, she was again this very fragile girl, even though we know she isn't. That's what I liked about the first book. In the end, Ren, like, becomes much more powerful. I don't know what to say, like, that's what I really liked about it. And in the second one, I feel like she kind of crumbled a bit again under Bogdana and everything, but I still enjoyed this book and I read it in 2 days. That was shocking for me. I'm gonna put it in amazing, but missing the last sparkle. It will not be as good as the Folk of the Air trilogy. It's not, but it's definitely up there. So it was a really, really good read and I really enjoyed myself. Loved getting some Juden Carnan scenes, gotta say. I love them. So yeah, it was a good book, but it's just missing something. It's missing something. Next up, we have A Quarter Once in Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, which I gave a pretty good rating. I think I gave it like a 4.5 rating it. And to be fair, I haven't really thought about it since, and I don't even really remember what happened. I do know though that it's definitely my favorite book in the ACOTAR series so far. I still have to read A Court of Silver Flames. ACOWAR is so far my favorite book in the series. It was much more political heavy. Favorite was a lot less whiny and annoying. I actually liked her in this book, and yeah, I just really like the politics in this. I don't understand why people say, oh, this book should have been so much shorter, it was so boring. No. Y'all, this was the best book of them all. Like, what are you talking about? In general, I'm still not the biggest fan of ACOTAR. I think it's a little too heavy on the romance for me. I like a more political fantasy with the romance as kind of like subplot. But that's obviously my fault, but I just don't think the series is that much for me. I also thought Feyre was so annoying in the first 2 books. Like, I couldn't stand her. I'm so sorry, but like, I know. So I think I would put it in, would recommend nothing, or should I put it up here? It's because it's so hard for me to like rate a 3rd book in a series, because I think about like the series overall. For the series overall, I would probably say try it out because people like it. But for this book in particular, I put it in amazing but missing the last sparkle because I did actually really enjoy myself, and I was close to giving it a 5-star. But I think just because it is a part of the ACOTAR series, I haven't really thought about it again because it's just not my favorite series out there, I gotta say. But the book overall was a really good experience. I like how all of the second books in series come before the first one. But next we have Iron Flames by Rebecca Yarros, the second book in the Empyrean series, and I actually just also read this book. It did take me a while to get through, but when I switched to my Kindle, I flew by this book so much faster. It took me a while to get into it because honestly, I had forgotten quite a lot from Fourth Wing, and through Fourth Wing I was also very confused, like who's who, like what is happening, like I was just very confused. I don't know, I feel like they were lacking some explanation, and I think that I like in fantasy books are when you read the second book, the author kind of gives you a summary of the big things that happened in the first one, which I don't feel like happened in this one, so I was very confused and I really had to get into it again. But at the end, I really enjoyed myself. I feel like I almost need a tier between the amazing and the would recommend, not special. Can I add a tier? Can I add another tier, please? Because I feel like, okay, y'all, we just added another tier. I feel like A Coat of Wings and Ruin need to be in this one. I really enjoyed myself. It wasn't close to being like one of my favorite books, but I really did enjoy myself. And that's also what I felt about Iron Flame. I really did enjoy myself, but this series is still not about to be one of my favorites. But I do really like this series, I'm not gonna lie. Like, it definitely has potential, and I think the last couple books in the series will probably be so much for me. Like, recommend any day. Any day. Next we have The Cruel Prince by Miss Holly Black, and can y'all even guess, like, where this book is gonna be? I think we all knew. This book was a reread for the third time. This series changed my life. It altered my brain chemistry. I have no words. Amazing world building, amazing plot, amazing characters, amazing romance subplot, emphasize on the subplot, amazing fans, like the world, everything. No. Let's just move on from here. I've talked enough about this series in general on my channel. Next up, I read Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo, and I ended up giving this book a 3.5. I think it's my least favorite in the series just because it was a lot of like running around, I believe. In general, I really enjoyed this trilogy and I have thought about it a few times since. I think I would put in would recommend nothing special because this book didn't really stand out to me, especially. I think it's like my least favorite of the series, I will say. Next up, we have The Selection by Kira Cass. I just read this book. I don't even know what I rated it. I rated this book a 3-star, and when I read it, I mean, it was fine. I was enjoying myself. It was a very easy YA read. But I do want to say, now that I think back on it, I think I'm going to read the rest of the series just because it's YA. It's just very easy, lighthearted, but I think I'm going to put it in We Were Rooting For You. With the prince, it was very weird that they were like friends, and then all of a sudden, she kind of thinks she likes him, but she don't know. Or like, I don't know, I just feel like there was nothing there to like really bring them closer from friends to something else. It just felt weird and forced to me. Honestly, like the relationship felt very forced. And then we have the other guy from her hometown, which I don't even know. Like, I don't even like him. I don't know what's going on there. I don't like the love interest in this one, and that's what it's very heavy on, obviously. And I don't like it. I do really like the whole caste system and everything. I think that's very interesting. But besides from that, looking back on it, it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best, I want to say. But I did have like a good time. But next up, we have Fourth Wing. And I'm going to put this book in would recommend nothing special. Hear me out, y'all. Because I know a lot of people are going to be mad at me for this. Like I said earlier with Iron Flame, I was extremely confused throughout Fourth Wing. I also had like 100 pages where I was confused, didn't understand anything. It was boring. Then I had another 100 pages where I really enjoyed myself, then another 100 pages where I didn't really understand what was going on and didn't really enjoy myself. There just were a few things here where it was so hard to picture what was happening or understand. I don't know if I was just stupid, but I don't understand why people say that that series is good for beginners because I was confused. I might just be dumb. And there were so many characters in this, so many names introduced, and more than half of them died. I could not keep up with the people. I did not know who was who. Which is which. Like I said, I think in like the last books a little bit more because I really like the politics. Next up, we have Shadow and Bone by Lee Bardugo. I gave it a 5-star, and I do think it's a 5-star. It's not a 6-star, but it's a 5. And I did love this book, and I did feel betrayal, even though I did feel the betrayal coming on. I really enjoyed myself reading this one. The only thing is, I don't know if it was life-changing though. I think I'm gonna put it in amazing, but missing the last sparkle because it was a 5. When I think about my other 6-star books and my other actual life-changing books, like life-changing books for me are 6 stars, like no question. But Shadow and Bone wasn't like necessarily 6 stars, but it was really 5 stars. Like I will give it a 5-star. But for me, I have such a hard time finding the difference between a 5 and a 6-star because The Cruel Prince, 6 stars. Once Upon a Broken Heart, 6 stars. Caraval, 6 stars. Like I love those 3. Oh my god, those are my holy grails. Shadow and Bone just are not as good, but it was amazing, and I want to give it a 5. So I think I'm gonna put in amazing, but missing the last sparkle. Love the universe and really enjoyed the first book in the series. Definitely my favorite. Then we have The Wicked King by Holly Black, and let's just put it up with its sister up here. Life-changing 6-star book. That's all I have to say. Next up, we have The Light Arc by Alex Astor. Why does the series get as much hate as it gets? I don't understand. Because personally, I really like the first book, and I'm just gonna go ahead and put it in Amazing but Missing the Last Sparkle because I really wanted to give it a 5-star, but to be fair, I don't think it is like a necessarily 5-star. I think I'm gonna give it like a 4.75. Thinking back on it, because I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I'm 100 pages into Nightbane, and I'm still an oral girl, but I do feel the vibes. I do feel where we're going. I don't know if I'm really liking that, but I really like the plot. I just thought it was such an interesting plot with like these curses and their powers, and you literally didn't know who to trust, and I feel like the end had a pretty good plot twist. There were some other things that I had foreseen, but definitely not all of them. I think when I finished I gave it a 4, and now I'm already giving it a 4.75. So if I keep on thinking about it, it could very well like tear up to Life Changing, because I don't know what she put in that book, but I really enjoyed it. I talked too much. I've yapped for 30 minutes. Next we have Ruin and Rising, the 3rd book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. And this book I'm gonna put in really enjoyed myself. It's the last book in the series. Personally for me, I really like the ending of the book. I had to have some time to think about it if I liked the ending, because it do feel very anticlimactic, but thinking about the entire series and everything, the ending made so much sense with the characters and everything. So because of that, I really liked it, because the ending wasn't what you thought it was going to be, if that makes sense. So I really enjoyed that part, and that really took the book up for me. Like, it was a very dangerous choice, and a lot of people don't like the book because of that choice, but personally I think it was a very nice one, and I think it was the right choice that the author made. So for that, I can put in really enjoyed myself. I like reading about these characters, the story, this world, but I will say like the first book was definitely my favorite. It was also very different from the next two, so that's probably why it was my favorite, but I think I will give it a 4, like now thinking back on it. Next up, I read Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I think I gave it a 4, but I was very like torn with what to rate it and what to think about it. No, I gave it a 3. Oh my god, I gave it a 3-star. I thought I gave it a 4. And I thought it would continue the series, and I just never have. I will say after the ending, I do feel like I have to continue, because I just need to know what's up with that. It was so weird. Like, there has to be something more. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about, but I don't know if I'm gonna put it in really enjoyed myself or would recommend nothing special, just because I haven't really thought that much about it after finishing it. But I think I'm gonna put in really enjoyed myself. I also read it over the summer while tanning, and I feel like that series could be a very cute like summer. It's not even cute. I don't know what I'm talking about. But next I read The Lost Sisters, the novella for the Cruel Prince, so y'all already know where this goes. It was really interesting reading about Taryn's perspective. This was the first time I've read this book. You can only get it as an ebook, and I got it for my Kindle. It was really interesting to read from Taryn's POV. It didn't make me like her anymore. I still really don't like her, but also the fact that it was like a new book where I could read about my favorite characters of all time. Yeah, I am biased, I will say it. Then we have A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. I'm gonna put this in would recommend, not special, because it's a very chill novella, just reading about these characters in their day-to-day life. I mean, there are still political stuff in it, but it's not like there's a war going on at the moment. Yeah, because of that, I really enjoyed it. A good way to like get a little closer to the characters, if that makes sense. But I still think you should read this book if you're reading the ACOTAR series. I don't think it's a skip, but yeah, again, it's not like the best book in the series. It's just a little cute, fun novella. So next up, we have One Dark Window, Rachel Gillick. I put it in should have DNF'd. I don't know if I should actually put it in DNF because I didn't read the last 30 pages. I loved the vibes. It had really good gothic vibes. It had such a good plot. The execution was just terrible. It was boring. It was slow. The love interest wasn't love interesting. I didn't enjoy it. I really did not enjoy it. It could have been so good. I loved the whole thing with like the cards and all this, like, it was just such an interesting plot, and it was just so boring, y'all. It was so boring. I don't know how people can like this. Probably should have DNF'd earlier. Let's say it like that. And my camera's dying, that's great. The next book we have is The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. I did talk a little bit about this book earlier in the video. This was actually a reread to prepare for The Prisoner's Throne, so it's my second time reading the book, and I definitely enjoyed it more the second time I read it. Yeah, I would put it in would recommend, not special. I haven't really thought about it. It wasn't my favorite, but I mean, it's Holly Black, and I love her. It could also be like we were rooting for you, because it wasn't my favorite. It really wasn't my favorite, so I would probably not even recommend it now. I would probably only recommend it to get to the second book in the series, to be fair. I also think I was biased. I had too high expectations that it would be exactly like The Folk of the Air, but obviously it's not. And I should not blame Holly for writing something else. Next up we have Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer, and this was a 5-star read for this year. Again, not life-changing, but amazing. It's missing the last something. For me, it's just really hard for simply romances to be a 6-star for me. I feel like I needed a little more emotion, probably, to make it like top tier, but it's such a good book. It really made me want to read more Abby Jimenez. What I really liked about it is that the romance was not the only plot in this story. There were so many other things happening, more adult things. Yeah, there were a bunch of stuff going on in this book. I just really enjoyed that romance wasn't the main part. I love the two main characters and their relationship with each other. It's very mature, and that's what I like about it. So next we have Hooked by Emily McIntyre, and this book honestly should have DNF'd. This book was terrible. I finished it and I hate it. That's also why I was kind of shocked that I actually really enjoyed Scarred, because Hooked is the worst dark romance I've ever read. One of the worst books I've read in general. The insta lust, the wanting to be with her on her uncle's dead body, and his obsession with her being a virgin. I just honestly think dark romance is probably not for me. And this one was definitely not, because I just can't with books where they're obsessed with the fact that they're a virgin. It made me cringe, and just the lines in this make me cringe. And the fact, like I said, that there was no plot. I didn't like it. I liked the beginning, and then it was downhill from there. So next, The Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo, which is the novella for the Shadow and Bone trilogy. Sometimes it's really hard to rate a novella because I feel like it more adds to the story that you have read or that you're currently reading, and not really. So I'm gonna put it in amazing. No, I'm gonna put it in life-changing, actually. The novella itself was very short and everything, but it gave such a good indication of the Darkling, what his motives are, why he is the way he is. And I think there's so much that you could like analyze in the story. Yeah, I read this after Rune and Rising and it broke my heart. Next we have People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, which is the first Emily Henry book I have ever read. And I think I gave it a 3. I think I'm gonna put it in We Were Rooting For You, because everyone speaks so highly of Emily Henry. They love her books. And I will say, the book itself was fine, but it was boring, it was slow. For me, it was a miss. Like I said, it was fine. I liked the two characters together, but it's just like the characters were so stupid. Like, you're literally soulmates. Is it that hard to like comprehend for yourself? Just think about all that's happened. It was just a little slow, but it was very cute. I will say it was cute. It was just too slow for me, and I don't like slow books. And all the flashbacks, there were so many, and I was just like, why am I even reading about this? This does not add anything to the story. So then we have If You Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan, and straight into life-changing. This was a new 6-star read for me this year, and my only one. This book made me cry, throw up, scream, kick my feet. Like, no. I love this book so much with my entire heart. I really liked the way it was very YA. I mean, it is a YA book. I've talked so much about this in one of my videos, gave such a long review about it, and I just love it so much. And if I should just mention a few points to why I love it. Autumn, for example, I see myself so much in this girl, and I feel like when you see yourself in some characters in the book, it's so much easier to love it. And I just saw myself so much in her. I could relate to a lot of her struggles. Yeah, also the whole soulmates thing. The tragedy, it just broke my heart. Like, I feel like everyone knows what's gonna happen in this one. I love the way it was written, very YA, but it was just done in a really, really nice way. I really enjoyed myself with this one, and cried for the next 2 weeks. I literally cried 2 weeks after finishing this book. I don't know what's wrong with me, but. Then I read Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and that was actually the first book I finished this year. Would recommend, nothing special. I will say though, it's not like I recommend it because it was good, but I recommend it to like a specific type of reader, if that makes sense. If you're maybe new or you like romance with spice in it, I would recommend it because then it's good for you. Because I'm not that big on just romance with spice in it, which is very much what this book is. I will also say I don't think it's as bad as everyone says it is. I just think it's 50 to 100 pages too long, but it's just not for me. So I'm gonna put it in would recommend, but it's not really anything special. Then I read The Lightning Thief, which is the first book in the Percy Jackson series. I'm gonna put it in really enjoyed myself. I did really enjoy myself with this. It was very different from what I have read. I don't usually read about like ancient mythology any type of way. I honestly get confused reading them, but this is YA, which is why it was so easy to read and follow along, and it was just a very fun premise, I feel like. But I really enjoyed myself. I read it on my vacation. Just a cute, fun YA, and like I said, very different. So I'm definitely going to continue in this universe. I also feel like it's in general a series that you need to read. So I really liked it. I don't have much to say other than it was a fun time. It was a fun time. Then we have Bunny by Mona Allwood, and I DNF'd this 2/3 in. It was just so weird to me. It was a weird cult with bunnies and men who exploded, and when people say that they don't know what they read when they finish this, I understand, because I don't even know what I read. Like, what? Please someone tell me if the ending is worth it, because then I'm gonna finish it, but what? It's so weird. It's so weird. I don't understand. So I'm like, if you analyze the book, then it's amazing. Please tell me, because I'm so confused. Extremely boring and weird, and no, I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, so yeah. Then we have The Pumpkin Spice Cafe by Laurie Gilmore, and I would put it in, would recommend, nothing special. This is your typical cute small town romance that's really good. It's enjoyable, but it's not really anything special. It's just a good little cute palette cleanser. Because of that, I do think I'm gonna read the other books, use them as little palette cleansers, because they are cute, they are fun. But yeah, I will say it was a little, it's not even a long book, but it was a little long because there wasn't really any plot except for the romance part, and it became very repetitive, and they mentioned the ex-girlfriend a little too much for my taste. It was very Gilmore Girl-esque, so if you like that, you'll probably like this series. But like I said, I think they're good for palette cleansers because not much is happening. There's not that big of a plot except for the two characters that are in love. Next up, The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I'm gonna put in We Were Rooting for You. I loved the beginning. I loved the first 50, 70, 80 pages. The writing style, I really enjoyed it. Thought the premise and the plot was so exciting. But the longer we got into the book, the more bored I became. I don't feel like we got anywhere. Met up with a lot of different people where we got a lot of different plot points, if that makes sense. So we have 5 strings right now with different stories where we don't really know what they have to do with plot of the book, if that makes sense. But at the end, first of all, I completely expected the plot twist. I wasn't even shocked. I was like, I knew it. And personally for me, if a thriller doesn't have a good plot twist, then it's just not a good thriller. I have to say, and this wasn't that. We still have these 5 different plot strings that still does not lead anywhere. So they're just we just met with a lot of people. Then I actually listened to an audiobook, which is Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. It's her biography, and personally for me, I would not rate a biography. It's someone's story, and I don't like rating that. It just feels wrong and weird. Listening to Jeanette McCurdy's story is very interesting because she's a character that I've grown up with. So to be older and listen to how her life was back then and her struggles, it was very shocking and interesting. But I don't ever think you would read a biography about someone where you don't think it would be interesting to listen about to listen to their life. I think I would never pick up a biography from a person that you don't care about. So yeah, I think most biographies that I would listen to would probably be up in either amazing or really enjoyed myself. Next we have The Sea of Monsters, which is the second book in the Percy Jacksons and the Olympians series. I don't even remember much from the second one. It wasn't as good as the first one. The first one is still my favorite from the second book, I will say. But it was still good. I still like the series. I'm still gonna continue it. It's very, like I said, just fun, different. So I still enjoy my time with it. Then I read Twisted Hate by Anne Huang. I'm gonna put this in really enjoyed myself. I don't think about it that much anymore, but I remember I really liked it and I thought about it for the next few weeks after reading it. Josh and Jules. I really like it. I also love I love when it's a friend and a brother. I don't know what it is. It's just a good trope. I like the low-key rivals, enemies to lovers thing in this one. It was executed quite nicely. So I enjoyed this book and I sped through it. I really sped through it. I think Twisted Love is still my favorite. I probably should reread it because a lot of people hate it and I was a pretty new reader when I read that. But Twisted Love and Twisted Hate are definitely the best books in the series in my opinion. Then I read If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nole. This comes after If He Had Been With Me and was published 9 years or so after, 10 years after the first one was published. I'm gonna put it in We Were Rooting for You because I feel like this book was kind of unnecessary. I mean, it deals a lot with grief. So, and I've personally never lost anyone close to me. I've never had to deal with it. I'm extremely fortunate to never had to deal with it. So I don't know if anyone's struggling with grief, if this book might be good for them. I don't know, I don't even know. But personally for me, it just felt kind of unnecessary and I like the way If He Had Been With Me just ended. It breaks your heart and it makes you really think about life and people you're close to and everything. I don't know, I didn't really get anything from the second book. I felt like it was kind of pointless. For people struggling with grief, it might be something, but yeah, I don't know, it just wasn't for me at least. And the last book that I read last year was Shatter Me by Tara Mafi, a reread. Let's put it out there, a reread. Obviously it was a little more boring this time around than the first time I read it. The first time I've read it, definitely a 5-star. I love the whole Shatter Me series, it's a 6-star for me. But I wanted to reread it, and because I knew what was happening, or what was gonna happen, it was a little more boring, but I loved the first time around, because I love the enemies to lovers. I love Aaron and Juliet's kind of like banter. But I will say, and I still love Aaron. I was kicking my feet in this one, I will say, but yeah, it was better the first time around, because I do think Shatter Me is obviously probably the most boring of them all. It only gets better from here, but yeah, like I said, the rest of the series is amazing, so. And a really fun YA dystopian. I love it. I love Aaron Warner. I've been missing my man. I've been missing reading about him. This is basically my tier ranking of all the books that I read in 2024. I feel like it looks pretty good. I don't have a lot of books on like the bottom, but I will also say a lot of the books on the top are either like my rereads, have been life-changing, or in the same kind of universe. So it's not because I had like a bunch of new favorites, but we do have like some new books that I really enjoyed, like Shadow and Bone Trilogy, The Prisoner's Throne, Lightlark, Just for Summer. And yeah, in general, it was an okay reading year. Hopefully next year I will find another 6-star. I hope so. I'm in desperate need of something to write my heart out. This was a little longer video than what I usually do, but I really hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please give it a like, and please subscribe to my channel. That would make me so happy. And yeah, I hope I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.